I'm with Don Richards. Don's a life member of the St Andrews Men's Club and also the Pine River St Andrews Club. I'm here today to talk about a bit of the history of Pine River St Andrews Men. 1923, the start of the club, I believe.
That's right, Tom, yes. Back in fact, it was in November 1923 that the club was formed. It was formed under the name of St Andrews Gordon at that particular time. It would be the second oldest club around today. Valley's obviously started a couple of years early, in 1921. And we played in lower division grades through until our first premiership in the A grade, second division. We won the premiership in 1929. Continued on and we got our first A grade premiership in 1949, and it was at that particular time that St Andrews started a very strong era of being on the competition, in that we played in 10 grand finals in the first division. And from 1949 through to 1958, we won five of those premierships. It then had another lean time through to our sixth first division grand final, which was won in 1975. And unfortunately, in 37 years since then, we've been barren.
Cupboard's a bit bare, but a great start. So 1923, where did you start? What fields? Where did you guys train? Clubhouse?
Well, the club was formed in out of the St Andrews Church in South Brisbane. At that particular time, there was no associated fields. There was a spasmodic sort of training done at local school grounds, and the competition was mainly played back in that era in Victoria Park. And we had one of the rectors from the church who was our president of the men's club for about 9 years back in the 20s to 30s type of thing. It wasn't through until 1939, I think, when Heath Park at Norman Park, or East Brisbane, became a regular sort of training ground just down from the Church of England Grammar School, and the club spasmodically did training at Heath Park. Our first lease on council fields was in 1950 when Raisey Park was leased, and the club sort of started to develop from there. And of course, that was at a very exciting era within the St Andrews Club. We were performing very well in not only A first division but right through the senior men's divisions.
So tell us a bit about Raisey Park. What did you start off with?
Well, as was the case in that particular area, it was a council shed. Was our club room, and we had that through until 1969, when the club put funds forward to build a clubhouse. The clubhouse has had various extensions on it since 1969, but it's still standing at Raisey Park now. It's owned by the Queensland Railways Cricket Institute. And it's still used for hockey, Raisey Park, for the girls in modified hockey on Saturday morning. We stayed associated with Raisey Park for 38 years. We had a farewell to Raisey Park sort of function at the end of 1988, and of course this was after our amalgamation with the Pine Rivers Hockey Club.
So yeah, going on to that, the Pine River St Andrews is the name of the club today. That's a big move for an inner city club like yours. Butterfield Street, just down the road from the Royal Brisbane Hospital, and you've made the move out to the northern suburbs of Brisbane. Firstly, being Rob Acres Reserve at Strathpine.
Firstly, Rob Acres Reserve. That's right, Tom. Yes. Some of the reasons at that particular time is we were having a lot of trouble attracting juniors to our ranks, and there was a benefit to Pine Rivers, who didn't have A-grade status, to the two clubs. There was various people within the club that were associated with both clubs, and the committees got together to sort of talk about an amalgamation and an eventual move from the inner city location through to the northern suburbs out in the Pine Rivers. In hindsight, I feel that a number of other clubs that have stayed put and stayed where they are have probably made a fairly good decision by doing that, with the growth of younger families in the inner city. However, we're still not unhappy with our prospects of attracting juniors to our ranks out in the Pine River Shire.
Yeah, definitely. And so from Rob Acres Reserve moved on to the current location of the Pine River St Andrews Hockey Club today.
Yes, and that was in 2000. The discussions with the council. There was a sports association, South Pine Sports Association, formed with a variety of different sports at the Brendale site. And a part of that complex was 2 hockey fields, and it was made up by the association. There were a lot better hockey fields than what we had at Acres, which was an old dump. So we took the opportunity to do a move from the Acres Reserve into the Brendale South Pine Sports Association fields at Brendale, our current location.
So current location at Brendale, the plans for the future out there, Don?
Yeah, we have got plans, Tom. We've sort of had various discussions to date about an artificial surface on the South Pine Sports Complex, and things look fairly favourable at the moment that may come to fruition. I don't know how far down the track, but would be hopeful it might be a couple of year plan.
Be fantastic, and that's being in conjunction with the local council out there?
The Moreton Shire Councillors is now, and they're very keen to give us every assistance they can to introduce a higher standard of hockey to the area, and also they're fairly keen to relocate us from where we're currently located and expand the facilities available to cricket. Going
back a bit into the history now, we talked about some of the players that have come through the ranks. You've had numerous Australian representatives that have come through. Going back, the first one being?
I'm aware of is Ken Reid, who certainly played in Australian sides in the 50s, which was a very significant period in St Andrews history. He was vice captain of Australia in '55 and was selected in the Olympic squad for the Melbourne Olympics in 1956.
And moving on from Ken?
Damien Cito, who was selected in the Australian sort of team in about 1992, I think it was, and he was playing, top first division hockey with St Andrews at that particular time. Then we had Gary Jennison, who came from Tamworth in New South Wales, and he also made the Australian team in 1992, and again went into the South African trip with the Australian squad just before the Olympic team was named for Barcelona in 1995. And then moving forward, we've got of course our own homegrown junior player who's a current member of the Kookaburras, and that's Liam de Young, who in 2001 was in the World Cup, Australian Under-21s World Cup team, and then graduated from there to the Kookaburra team in the same year, and it's been a part of that team ever since 2001. And
so can you remember when Liam first picked up a hockey stick at St Andrews?
I've seen photos of Liam playing minky hockey. He was a part of a very elite sort of group of young fellows that came through and was coached by one of our life members, John Elliott, who had sons playing in the teams himself, and there was a very good batch of young fellows that went through with Liam and performed got very sound performances in the junior ranks. I can't remember the year, but it's certainly going back to when Liam, who's a 30-odd-year-old man now, sort of was playing minky hockey.
And the problem you've got with developing Australian players is that you lose them out of the current Brisbane team. You talked about a lack of premierships. You've got a bloke like Liam de Young playing in your team, you'd have a different side on the paddock.
Well, Liam is a life member of the club also, and he obviously comes back as much as he can to sort of give us assistance with training and so on and so forth. But I would say that Liam has probably played less than a half a dozen games with the club in First Division. He made the First Division as a very young 18-year-old or thereabouts, but was soon after that whizzed off to the AIS in Perth, and we haven't seen him for the last.
Haven't seen him since.
No, which is 12, 15 years ago.
Which is a big commitment for players. A lot of them obviously do it and make that trek over there. The club scenes miss out on the way.
That's true. We'd like to have some sort of arrangement where he can come back as a guest player a little bit more often than he does, but of course Perth's well away from here. We understand the situation.
You mentioned John Elliott as one of your life members. Other life members of the Pine Rivers St Andrews Club?
The person's been a very significant sort of boost to our performances the last few years. Barry Bolton, he's a life member of the club. We've got players that are currently with us like Peter Cook, we've got Peter Graham, we've got Alan McAnally, we had Marino Berta, who unfortunately was deceased in 1988. He was a life member of the club. We've got Danny O'Rourke, who's a current member of our playing fraternity. But then we go back to an older era where we had older people like Graham Gardner and Ronnie Gilbert, Neil Marshall, myself, I'm a life member, as you said at the introduction. We had Eric Jackson, Norm Maddock and Eric Graham, which were also significant names in the St Andrews sort of club development of the 60s and 70s.
And you had a story about one of those life members, Peter Cook?
Yeah, Peter Cook is started with the club as a junior in 1961, and in 2010 he achieved 50 years of continuous playing with the club, because he's still playing in 2012, so he now has 52 years of continuously playing with the club.
He's strapped on the shin pads every year
every
for 52
season for 52
years,
and he's still going. And the way he's rejuvenated and lost a little bit of weight over the last 12 months, I would say that he's going to be around for a little bit longer. Yes.
Hockey's a great sport that you can play to those ages. It's fantastic to see the guys still running around at those sort of ages, and well done to him. Congratulations.
Yeah, well, Peter's 62 and he's, as I said, I think he's going to be around for a lot longer yet.
So Don, you mentioned a lot of men in that life member portfolio. The combination between the St Andrews men and the St Andrews women in Brisbane hockey has never seemed to be conjoined for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, I think our origins go back to very similar sort of, starting out of St Andrews Church in South Brisbane back in 1923. However, to my knowledge, both the women and the men have gone different paths. It's not without, I also have knowledge of the fact that there's been a number of approaches made from the men to the women's club particularly during the 60s and 70s, to get back together, to reunite and to sort of be a force in Brisbane hockey. But unfortunately, nothing's come to anything with that.
Possibly with the development of Brendale, that might be another opportunity that opens the window.
Well, we can be optimistic and be hopeful that might be the case.
Good luck with that. Yeah.
We do have a women's part of the club in the Pine Rivers, from the Pine Rivers sort of area. Unfortunately, they're developing in lower senior levels, 5th division, and it's probably one of our challenges that as to how we progress that grading to get the opportunity for some of our juniors, and we do attract a lot of junior girls. Probably got 7 teams out there at the moment to give them an opportunity to go through top grade hockey, and looking at opportunity to establish a 1st division in the club, but it's going to be a number of years before that happens.
So talking about, that's the current day, so you've made up of both the men and the women in, the junior boys and junior girls are tied up with the club through the Pine Rivers. The
Pine Rivers St Andrews Club has got something like 23 teams. There's a half a dozen boys teams, and we've got 7 junior girls, 3 senior women and the remainder of the senior men, so 23 altogether. In Barry Bolton's era, we've certainly developed our strengths right through the senior grades to win the Merv Harris sort of Shield on 2 occasions over the last 3 or 4 years.
Merv Harris Shield being the best performing club throughout the year?
Best performing club throughout the year in the senior men's grades, that's right.
Yeah. The Pine Rivers St Andrews North era was for how many years?
I think it commenced in 2006 and went through to 2011, so we had a 5-year association there, which was very fruitful for both clubs.
So Don, Pine Rivers, how does that move into the St Andrews Men's Club?
Well, the Pine Rivers was a separate entity, kicking off in about 1974 and right through to 1987 when we amalgamated with St Andrews. It had a history of itself, and as we spoke earlier in the interview, based itself around Acres Reserve, built a clubhouse there in about 1983, 84, I think the clubhouse was built, constructed. Unfortunately, we walked away from that when we moved to the Brendale South Point Sports Association. But the club started off in 1974 with about 4 teams, 1 in the men, 1 in the women, and I think it might have been 5 teams, 2 in the girls and 1 in the boys, I think, at that time. But it was very successful in lower grading areas, but obviously didn't have a 1st division sort of status, and that was the benefit to Pine Rivers to amalgamate with St Andrews. obviously benefits to St Andrews was to sort of get the growth area of access to juniors.
Yeah. And well done to the club for making that move and taking the audacity to do that in the expanding metropolis. You talk about how Brisbane City's getting to where it is, but I think that growth area is going to be there for a while. So you talked about the joint effort between different clubs. Other clubs we've spoken to over the history of this year have spoken about fees. I believe you found a solution to the current crisis with how much it costs to play hockey these days.
We're very thankful to a number of sponsors that we have within the club who've helped us out, and it's principally towards reducing the fees that it costs for senior players, senior men, senior women, and also the juniors to play hockey on artificial surface in Brisbane.
Don, One Life member for Pine River St Andrews Hockey Club's having a run out here this afternoon, Laurie Robson.
Yes, Laurie is a Life member. He goes back. He's one of the few that sort of came out of the Pine Rivers sort of hockey club, and obviously when we amalgamated as a big part of St Andrews, and for our early years he was also right from our amalgamation date. He was the club president, and he was president for about 7 years. He was appointed a Life member in about 1994, I think. And he's still running around out in the field out here.
Fantastic to see you blokes having a run on the field, and I believe you'll be going out and having a run around this afternoon as well.
Hopefully get out there and sort of see if I can get on the winning side, yes.
Make sure you tune in and see yourself on Hockey Zone.
Thank you, Tom.